The Galactic Empire was big, really big. It spread across countless stars, planets, and space stations. For thousands of years, it grew and grew. Nothing could stop it. At least, that's what everyone thought. The Empire's ships were amazing. They were huge, shiny, and full of tech that most people couldn't even dream of. These ships could jump across the galaxy in the blink of an eye. They had weapons that could blow up whole planets. The people who flew these ships thought they were invincible. Every year, the Empire found new worlds to add to its collection. Some joined willingly, excited by the promise of advanced tech and protection. Others fought back, but it never lasted long. The Empire always won. At the head of the Empire was the Emperor. Nobody knew his real name or what he looked like. He lived on a planet-sized space station at the heart of the Empire. From there, he sent out orders to his generals and governors. One day, the Emperor called his top advisors for a meeting. They gathered in a room with walls made of strange, glowing crystals. The Emperor's voice boomed from everywhere and nowhere at once. "We have conquered much," the Emperor said, "but there is always more. Our scouts have found a new sector of space. We will take it." The advisors nodded. This was nothing new. But then the Emperor said something that made them all sit up straight. "This sector is different. Our long-range scans show anomalies, things we can't explain. We must be careful." The head of the military, General Zark, spoke up. "My Emperor, with all due respect, we have faced the unknown before. We have always triumphed." The Emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Perhaps, but I sense something different this time. Prepare the fleet, but proceed with caution." Over the next few weeks, the Empire's best ships gathered at the edge of known space. There were hundreds of them, each one a masterpiece of engineering and firepower. The soldiers and crew were excited. This was a chance for glory and adventure. As the fleet prepared to jump into the unknown sector, General Zark gave a speech. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by blinking lights and humming machines. "Brave warriors of the Empire," he said, his voice carried to every ship in the fleet. "We stand on the edge of a new frontier. Beyond lies a realm untouched by our great civilization. It is our duty, our privilege, to bring these new worlds into the light of the Empire." The crews cheered. They were ready for anything, or so they thought. The jump took longer than usual. When the fleet emerged from hyperspace, they found themselves in a strange part of the galaxy. The stars looked different here. Some of the planets they saw didn't make sense. They were colors that shouldn't be possible. For days, the fleet explored this new sector. They found empty planets, some with ruins of ancient civilizations, but no signs of current life. The soldiers started to get bored. Where was the glory they were promised? Then, on the 10th day, they found it. A small blue-green planet orbiting an ordinary yellow star. Nothing special, at first glance. But as they got closer, their sensors started going crazy. "Sir," a young officer said to General Zark, "I'm picking up radio signals, thousands of them. And, is that a space station?" Zark leaned forward, his eyes wide. "Impossible," he whispered. This sector was supposed to be empty. But it wasn't empty. As they watched, a small ship launched from the planet's surface. It was tiny compared to the Empire's vessels, barely more than a tin can with engines. But it flew with purpose, heading for the space station. "They have space flight," Zark said, his voice a mix of excitement and worry. "Primitive, but they're out there." He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to the Emperor. Tell him we found something. Something big." As the message was sent, Zark stared at the little blue-green planet. He didn't know it yet, but he was looking at the beginning of the end for the Galactic Empire. The humans of Earth were about to change everything. General Zark couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the little blue-green planet. Earth, they called it. For days, the Empire's ships had been watching, listening, and learning. "Sir," a young officer said, walking up to Zark, "we've decoded more of their broadcasts. You need to see this." Zark followed the officer to a big screen. On it, he saw images from Earth, cities full of tall buildings, cars zooming on roads, planes flying through the sky. "They're more advanced than we thought," Zark muttered. But that wasn't all. The officer showed him more. Humans fighting wars, building rockets, making music and art. It was a mix of violence and beauty that Zark had never seen before. "What should we do, sir?" the officer asked. Zark thought for a moment. "We need more information. Send down some scouts. Make sure they're not seen." Over the next week, small Empire ships sneaked down to Earth. They looked like shooting stars in the night sky. The scouts wore special suits that made them invisible. They walked among the humans, watching and learning. One scout, named Zix, was fascinated by the humans. He saw a group of children playing in a park. They were laughing and running without a care in the world. Zix had never seen anything like it in the Empire. Another scout, Vela, watched humans in a big building called a hospital. She saw them caring for the sick and hurt. It was so different from the Empire, where weak people were left behind. But not all the scouts saw good things. Some saw humans fighting, hurting each other over things like money or land. It reminded them of the Empire's own harsh ways. Back on the ships, Zark looked at all the reports. He was confused. Humans seemed both kind and cruel, smart and foolish. They weren't as advanced as the Empire, but they were growing fast. "We could crush them easily," one of Zark's advisors said. "Their weapons are no match for ours." But Zark wasn't so sure. There was something about the humans that made him uneasy. They were unpredictable. Just then, an alarm went off. One of the scout ships was returning, but something was wrong. It crashed into the hangar, smoking and damage. The scout stumbled out, his invisible suit flickering. "General," he gasped. They saw me. They shot me down." Zark couldn't believe it. How could the humans, with their primitive technology, shoot down an Empire ship? He ordered more scans of the planet. This time, they looked deeper. What they found shocked everyone. Hidden under mountains, deep in the oceans, and even on the far side of Earth's moon, there were secret bases, advanced technology that the Empire had never seen before. It was like the humans were hiding their true power. Zark realized they had made a big mistake. They had underestimated the humans. These weren't simple primitives. They were a young, growing power with secrets and strength. He called an emergency meeting with his top officers. "We need to rethink our approach," he said. "These humans are more dangerous than we thought." Some officers laughed. "They're still no match for the Empire," one said. But Zark shook his head. "No, you don't understand. They know we're here now, and they're not afraid. We need to be careful." As they talked, more alarms went off. Earth's radio signals had changed. They were sending out a clear message, in a language the Empire could understand. "We know you're out there. Show yourselves or leave. This is your only warning." Zark looked out the window at the blue-green planet. It looked so small, so fragile. But now he knew better. Earth wasn't weak. It was a sleeping giant, just waking up. And the Empire had just poked it with a stick. General Zark paced back and forth on the bridge of his ship. The message from Earth kept playing in his mind. "Show yourselves or leave. This is your only warning." How could these humans be so bold? "Sir," a young officer called out, "we're detecting something strange from the planet." Zark rushed to the screen. What he saw made his jaw drop. All across Earth, hidden doors were opening. In deserts, mountains, and oceans, massive structures were rising. They looked like weapons, but like nothing the Empire had ever seen. "Impossible," Zark whispered. "How did we miss this?" But the surprises weren't over. On the far side of Earth's moon, a giant door opened. Out came ships. Not the primitive rockets they had seen before, but sleek, advanced vessels that rivaled the Empire's best. Zark's communication officer spoke up. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from Earth. It's the humans. They want to talk." On the main screen, a face appeared. It was a human woman with dark skin and serious eyes. She wore a uniform that Zark didn't recognize. "I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "We know who you are and why you're here. Let me be clear. Earth is not yours to take." Zark tried to speak, but Admiral Chen continued. "We've been watching the stars for centuries. We knew someday someone like you would come. So we prepared. Everything you've seen until now was just a show. A mask to hide our true face." Images flashed on the screen. Humans with glowing eyes lifting heavy objects without touching them. Soldiers disappearing and reappearing in flashes of light. Machines that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Psychic powers, Admiral Chen explained. Teleportation. Technology you can't even imagine. We've kept it all hidden, waiting for this day. Zark found his voice. But how? Why hide all this?" Admiral Chen smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Because we know ourselves, General. Humanity is capable of great things, but also terrible ones. If we had shown our full power too soon, we might have destroyed ourselves. So we grew slowly, carefully. And we prepared for you." Just then, alarms blared on Zark's ship. All around the Earth, strange portals were opening. Through them, Zark could see other worlds, other galaxies. "We're not limited to just this planet, General," Admiral Chen said. "Earth is just our home base. We have friends and colonies across the universe, friends who are now coming to help." Zark watched in amazement as ships poured through the portals. Some were clearly human-made. Others were alien designs he had never seen before. All of them were powerful. "This is your last chance," Admiral Chen said. "Leave now and never return. Or stay and face the consequences." Zark looked at his officers. They were all pale and scared. The mighty Empire, which had conquered so many worlds, now looked small and weak. But Zark was curious. He had to know more. "Wait," he said to Admiral Chen. We didn't know. We don't want war. Can we talk?" Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Very well. We will meet. But remember, General, we warned you to run. You chose to stay. Whatever happens next is on you." As the transmission ended, Zark looked out at Earth again. The small blue planet now seemed like the most dangerous place in the universe. He had come here thinking he would find an easy conquest. Instead, he had found humanity's secret strength, and he had a feeling that the galaxy would never be the same again. General Zark stood nervously in the grand meeting room of the United Nations on Earth. He had come with a small team, leaving his massive fleet in orbit. Around him, representatives from every nation on Earth watched with curious and wary eyes. Admiral Chen walked in, flanked by her own team. Some were clearly human, but others, Zark couldn't tell what they were. One seemed to shimmer and change shape. Another floated a few inches off the ground. "Welcome to Earth, General," Admiral Chen said. Her voice was polite, but there was steel behind it. "I hope you understand the gravity of this situation." Zark nodded. We had no idea. Your world, your people, you're unlike anything we've encountered." A man stepped forward. He wore a simple suit, but his eyes glowed with an inner light. "I am Dr. Samuels, head of Earth's Psychic Division," he said. "General, we've been reading your thoughts since you entered the solar system. We know the Empire's intentions." Zark felt a chill run down his spine. Mind reading. Was there no end to human abilities? Another person spoke up, a woman with skin that seemed to shift colors like a chameleon. "I am Ambassador Zara of the Galactic Alliance," she said. "Earth is under our protection. We've been watching your Empire's expansion for centuries." Zark's head spun. A Galactic Alliance. There were powers beyond even the Empire. Admiral Chen raised her hand, and the room fell silent. General Zark, let me be clear. We are giving you a warning, and it's the only one you'll get. Run, take your fleet, and go back to your empire. Tell them what you've seen here. Tell them that Earth and its allies are not to be trifled with. Zark found his voice. But why? If you're so powerful, why not just destroy us now? A sad smile crossed Admiral Chen's face. Because, General, unlike your empire, we don't believe in unnecessary violence. We've seen too much of that in our own history. We're giving you a chance to avoid bloodshed. Dr. Samuels stepped forward again. We've seen the future, General. Many possible futures. In some, your empire leaves peacefully, and we eventually become allies. In others, he trailed off, his glowing eyes dimming. In others, we are forced to defend ourselves. Ambassador Zara finished. And believe me, General, you don't want to see that future. Zark looked around the room. He saw determination in every face, human and alien alike. He thought of his fleet, once so mighty in his eyes, now seeming like toys compared to Earth's hidden power. I understand, Zark said finally. But what guarantee do we have that you won't attack us once we leave? Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly. General, if we wanted to attack, do you think we have let you come this far? This meeting, this warning, it's all because we hope for peace. She walked up to Zark and handed him a small device. This contains a message for your emperor. It explains who we are, what we can do, and what will happen if your empire ever threatens us or our allies again. Zark took the device with trembling hands. I will deliver it personally. As Zark turned to leave, Admiral Chen spoke one last time. Remember, General, we warned you to run. What happens next depends on you and your empire. Choose wisely. Zark and his team were escorted back to their ship. As they prepared to return to the fleet, Zark looked out at Earth one last time. The beautiful blue planet now seemed to pulse with hidden power. He thought about the warning, about the futures Dr. Samuels had seen. As his ship lifted off, Zark made a decision. He would deliver the message to the Emperor, yes, but he would also argue for peace, because he had seen humanity's strength, and he knew that the galaxy would never be the same again. The Empire had come looking for an easy conquest. Instead, they had found a power beyond their wildest dreams. And now, they had a choice to make: run or face the consequences. As Earth faded from view, Zark whispered to himself, "We should have run when they warned us. Now, I can only hope it's not too late." General Zark stood before the Emperor, his hands shaking as he held out the device from Earth. The throne room was dark, filled with whispers and shadows. The Emperor's face was hidden, as always, but Zark could feel his anger. "You mean to tell me," the Emperor's voice boomed, "that this tiny planet dares to threaten us?" Zark swallowed hard. "Your Majesty, it's not just a threat. They have power beyond anything we've seen, and allies across the galaxy. We should listen to their warning." The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound that made Zark's blood run cold. "No," the Emperor said. "No one threatens the Empire. No one. We will crush this Earth and take their secrets for ourselves." Zark tried to argue, but it was no use. The Emperor had made up his mind. Within days, a massive invasion fleet was ready. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all headed for Earth. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Zark couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the control room of the Earth Defense Force headquarters. Screens showed the Empire's fleet approaching. "They didn't listen," she said softly. "I had hoped." Dr. Samuels put a hand on her shoulder. "We all did. But we're ready for this. We've been ready for centuries." Admiral Chen nodded and turned to her team. "Activate all defenses. Alert our allies. It's time to show the Empire why they should have run when we warned them." As the Empire's fleet exited hyperspace near Earth, they were met with an astonishing sight. A massive energy shield surrounded the planet, shimmering like a soap bubble. And beyond it, thousands of ships waited. Some were Earth vessels, others from alien allies. General Zark, watching from his flagship, felt a chill run down his spine. "It's not too late," he muttered. "We can still turn back." But the Emperor's orders were clear. The attack began. The Empire's ships opened fire, their weapons at full power. But their shots splashed harmlessly against Earth's shield. Then the Earth fleet moved. What happened next was unlike any battle the Empire had ever fought. Earth ships seemed to teleport, appearing and disappearing in flashes of light. Some fired weapons that ignored shields completely. Others released swarms of tiny robots that ate through Empire ship hulls like they were paper. And that wasn't all. Portals opened in space, and more alien ships poured through. Some were organic, living vessels that regenerated damage instantly. Others were made of pure energy, untouchable by the Empire's weapons. On the planet's surface, things were even stranger. When Empire troops managed to land, they found themselves facing soldiers with supernatural abilities. Some could control gravity, pinning invaders to the ground. Others could create force fields or shoot energy from their hands. In orbit, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold. "Send in the psychic court," she ordered. Suddenly, Empire soldiers and pilots found their minds under attack. Some fell unconscious. Others turned on their comrades, unable to tell friend from foe. General Zark watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. Ship after ship fell, either destroyed or disabled. Those that tried to flee found their hyperdrives mysteriously malfunctioning. After just a few hours, it was over. The Empire's invasion fleet, once thought invincible, was reduced to floating wreckage. Thousands of escape pods drifted in space, carrying shocked and terrified Imperial soldiers. Admiral Chen's face appeared on every surviving Empire ship's screen. "This was your only warning," she said, her voice firm but not unkind. "Go home. Tell your Emperor what happened here. And know that if you ever return with hostile intentions, next time we won't be so merciful." As the remains of the fleet limped away, General Zark looked back at Earth. The beautiful blue planet now seemed to glow with power. He realized that everything had changed. The Empire was no longer the strongest force in the galaxy. And it was all because they didn't listen when humanity warned them to run. The Emperor sat on his throne, his face hidden in shadows. Around him, his advisors trembled. They had just finished watching the recording of the battle at Earth. The silence in the room was heavy. "How?" The Emperor finally spoke, his voice low and dangerous. "How could we lose?" General Zark stepped forward, his legs shaking. "Your Majesty, I try to warn you. The humans, their allies, they're beyond anything we've ever seen." The Emperor's fist slammed down on his throne. "Excuses. I want solutions. How do we crush these humans?" For days, the best minds in the Empire worked nonstop. They studied every second of the battle footage. They interrogated survivors. They even tried to replicate some of Earth's technology. Finally, a young scientist named Vex came forward with an idea. "Your Majesty," Vex said, bowing low, "we can't match their technology or their allies, but we might be able to use their power against them." The Emperor leaned forward, interested. "Go on." Vex explained his plan. They would build a device, a massive machine that could harness and redirect energy. If they could get it close enough to Earth, they might be able to turn the humans' own defenses into a weapon. The Emperor loved the idea. He ordered every resource in the Empire to be put towards building this device. They called it the Planet Killer. Months passed. The Empire worked in secret, hiding their activities from Earth's watchful eyes. They built shipyards in distant, empty star systems. They mined entire planets for materials. All across the Empire, people whispered. Some were excited about revenge against Earth. Others were scared. What if the humans attacked first? But the Empire had changed. Military training now included lessons on fighting psychic enemies. Ships were upgraded with new shields designed to resist Earth's strange weapons. Soldiers were given drugs to protect their minds from mental attacks. Finally, after a year of work, the planet killer was ready. It was massive, bigger than any ship the Empire had ever built. At its heart was a swirling vortex of energy, barely contained. The Emperor gathered his fleet. This time, they had twice as many ships as before. And this time, they had a secret weapon. On Earth, Admiral Chen was worried. Their spies had reported increased activity in the Empire, but no one knew exactly what was happening. "They're coming back," Dr. Samuels said, his psychic powers sensing the approach of the Empire fleet. "And this time, something's different." Admiral Chen nodded. She turned to her team. "Alert all our allies. Prepare every defense. Whatever the Empire's planning, we'll be ready." In space, the Empire fleet appeared. At its center was the planet killer, its energy core pulsing with power. General Zark, once again leading the fleet, felt a mix of excitement and fear. Would this plan work? Or were they walking into another disaster? The battle began. At first, it seemed like a repeat of the last fight. Earth's ships danced around the Empire vessels, their advanced weapons tearing through shields. But then the planet killer activated. A beam of pure energy shot out, hitting Earth's defensive shield. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, to everyone's shock, the shield began to flicker. On Earth, alarms blared. Admiral Chen watched in horror as their main defense system started to fail. "What's happening?" she demanded. Dr. Samuels, his face pale, looked at the readings. They're using our own energy against us. The shield, it's turning into a weapon." For the first time since the Empire arrived, fear spread through Earth's forces. The planet killer was doing the impossible. It was breaking through their defenses. As the shield weakened, Empire ships began to push through. Troops landed on Earth's surface. The battle that everyone thought would be easy was turning into a desperate fight for survival. Admiral Chen gritted her teeth. "Send a message to all our allies. We need everything they've got. And prepare our last resort weapons. We warned the Empire to run. Now, they'll see why." The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The Empire had struck back, and this time, they came prepared. The sky over Earth burned. Empire ships pushed through the failing shield, their weapons lighting up the atmosphere. On the ground, soldiers fought in the streets of every major city. The planet killer loomed in space, its energy beams still focused on Earth's weakening defenses. In the Earth Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold. Her face was grim, but her eyes shone with determination. "It's time," she said, turning to Dr. Samuels. "Activate the Omega Protocol." Dr. Samuels' eyes widened. "Are you sure? Once we start, there's no going back." Admiral Chen nodded. "We have no choice. The Empire needs to understand why we warned them to run." Across Earth, hidden bunkers opened. Strange machines, long kept secret, hummed to life. In orbit, satellites that had been disguised as space junk suddenly activated. On the Empire's ships, alarms began to blare. General Zark looked at his screens in confusion. What's happening? Suddenly, the Earth itself seemed to glow. A wave of energy burst outward, washing over the Empire fleet. Ship after ship lost power, going dark and drifting in space. The planet killer's beam flickered and died. Its massive form shuddered, then began to break apart. On Earth's surface, the ground shook. Empire soldiers watched in terror as their weapons crumbled to dust in their hands. Some tried to run, only to find themselves frozen in place by an unseen force. In orbit, portals began to open. But these weren't the small portals from before. These were massive, big enough for entire planets to pass through. And through them came ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships, from civilizations the Empire had never seen before. Admiral Chen's voice echoed across every communication channel, heard by every being in the solar system. Attention, Galactic Empire. You were warned. You were told to run. Now, witness the full power of Earth and its allies. The new fleet moved with impossible speed. Empire ships were disabled or destroyed in seconds. Those that tried to flee found themselves pulled back by tractor beams more powerful than anything they'd ever encountered. On the planet Killer, now falling apart, General Zark watched in awe and terror. He realized now the true depth of humanity's power. They hadn't just been holding back in the first battle. They had been holding back by entire orders of magnitude. As if reading his thoughts, Admiral Chen's voice spoke again. We are not conquerors, General. We do not seek to rule or destroy. But we will defend ourselves and our allies. Your empire's time of unchallenged dominance is over. In the following hours, the battle, if it could even be called that anymore, ended. The Empire's grand fleet was reduced to floating debris. The planet Killer was nothing but scattered atoms. Empire soldiers on Earth found themselves rounded up, not by human troops, but by beings of pure energy. They were treated well, but firmly told they would be sent home with a message. In the Emperor's distant throne room, the mood was one of shock and despair. The Emperor himself sat silent, unable to comprehend how his invincible empire had been so thoroughly defeated. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen stood with Dr. Samuels and Ambassador Zora, watching the cleanup begin. What now? Dr. Samuels asked. Admiral Chen smiled, a tired but hopeful expression. Now we help them understand. The galaxy is bigger than they knew. It's time for the Empire to join the galactic community as equals, not conquerors. Ambassador Zara nodded. It will take time, but this could be the beginning of a new era of peace. As the sun rose on a new day, Earth began to power down its ultimate weapons. The Allies' ships started to return home through the giant portals, and in Empire space, a new message was being broadcast. We are Earth. We warned you to run. Not out of fear, but out of hope. Hope that we could avoid conflict. Hope that you would understand. We stand ready to talk peace, to share knowledge, to explore the stars together. The choice is yours. Will you join us in building a better galaxy for all? Across the Empire, beings of all species listened, and for the first time in millennia, they began to hope for a future not built on conquest, but on cooperation. The Galactic Empire's first encounter with humanity had changed everything, and the galaxy would never be the same again.